Think your garden is a peaceful private escape? What if we told you that hidden among your roses, or sprouting by your fence, you might be growing a crime? Not a metaphor, a real prosecutable offense that can lead to handcuffs, felony charges, and the government seizing your land. This isn't about rare, exotic species. We're talking about shockingly common plants. One of them is almost certainly in your neighborhood right now, and there's a very real chance it's already in your yard. Let's get started. Plant number 1, cannabis, or cannabis sativa. This is the global poster child for this conflict. The narrative has shifted dramatically, with a majority of US states now permitting some form of medical or recreational use. This creates a perilous legal illusion. Federal law has not changed. The DEA still classifies it as Schedule 1, meaning it has no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. This classification places it in the same legal category as heroin. This disconnect means that while your state may have legalized it, you are still committing a federal crime. Federal agents can prosecute you, even in a legal state, though current policy often discourages it for small-scale compliant users. However, grow operations, especially those exceeding state limits or operating without a state license, are prime federal targets. They use statutes like the RICO Act to Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act to prosecute large grows, which can lead to asset forfeiture, the government seizing your house, your car, your bank accounts. The legal risk isn't just about the plant count, it's about crossing state lines, which triggers interstate commerce laws, using equipment purchased with the intent to cultivate a controlled substance, and even the electricity consumption patterns of your home. A simple indoor garden can be construed as a continuing criminal enterprise. Plant number 2, peyote cactus, Lophophora williamsi. Its legal status is a unique intersection of drug law, religious freedom, and conservation ethics. The American Indian Religious Freedom Act amendments of 1994 specifically protect the ceremonial use of peyote by members of federally recognized tribes. For anyone outside this protected class, possession or cultivation is a felony. But there's a deeper layer: conservation. Peyote grows excruciatingly slowly in the wilds of the South Texas desert and northern Mexico. Overharvesting for both the illicit drug trade and, sadly, sometimes for illicit spiritual tourism has pushed the species toward endangerment. So cultivating it illegally isn't just a drug crime, it can be seen as undermining a carefully balanced legal and ecological framework designed to preserve both a species and a sacred practice. The message from authorities is stark: this sacrament is not yours to commodify or experiment with. Plant number 3, opium poppy. This presents perhaps the greatest legal trap for the unwary gardener. Poppies somniferum is the only plant species that produces opium alkaloids like morphine and codeine. The legal distinction between an ornamental or culinary poppy and a drug poppy is a fantasy. They are the same plant. The DEA's position is clear: it is illegal to grow Poppies somniferum in the United States. Period. The burden of proof that you are not extracting opium rests entirely on you. Law enforcement uses a simple metric: if the plant is scored, the seed pod is lanced. That's evidence of narcotics production, but they don't need that. In several high-profile cases, the mere presence of mature pods and a large number of plants has been used to secure search warrants and indictments. Agents have been known to use satellite imagery and aerial surveillance to identify poppy plots. And forget about claiming ignorance. "I didn't know" is not a defense against federal drug charges. The seeds you buy for baking are sterilized. Planting them is an act of cultivation that the law does not differentiate from planting seeds acquired for narcotics purposes. Plant number 4, coca plant, Erythroxylum coca. Coca plant is the most unambiguous of all. There is zero tolerance. Unlike the poppy, which has legitimate culinary and ornamental industries, or cannabis, with its burgeoning medical market, coca has no such protected avenues in the United States. The plant is the direct and sole agricultural precursor to cocaine, and its cultivation is prosecuted as a narcotics manufacturing crime under the same statutes used for meth labs. The DEA and Homeland Security actively monitor for smuggling of live plants or cuttings, often intercepted in male facilities. Growing it, even as a botanical curiosity to see the source of a famous molecule, is viewed by the justice system as the first step in a drug production chain. The sentencing guidelines reflect this, with mandatory minimums that can eclipse those for the finished product itself, as it demonstrates clear intent to manufacture. This shifts the legal framework from narcotics enforcement to environmental protection and agricultural defense. The laws used are often state-level noxious weed acts or federal statutes like the Plant Protection Act. The crime is not possession of a substance, but the act of ecological sabotage. You become liable for damages to public lands, neighboring properties, and the local ecosystem. The legal principle is knowingly introducing or failing to control a prohibited species. Plant number 5. Kudzu, Puweria montana. Kudzu is a lesson in unintended consequences. Legally imported in the 1930s for erosion control, it was later officially listed as a noxious weed. In states like Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia, laws mandate its control. If kudzu from your property spreads to a highway right-of-way, you can be billed by the Department of Transportation for the costly and extensive eradication process. If it chokes out timber on a neighbor's land, you can be sued for timber trespass, a serious civil offense. The law frames it not as a plant, but as a spreading nuisance, like a fire hazard or a collapsing structure, for which the landowner is responsible. Plant number 6. Japanese knotweed, Reinotria japonica. This is arguably the most financially destructive plant on this list from a property law perspective. Its legal menace is twofold. First, its designation as a prohibited noxious weed means state or county authorities can issue a notice to control or weed abatement order. Ignoring this order leads to fines, and if the county performs the eradication, a process costing tens of thousands of dollars due to the need for licensed herbicides and multi-year treatments, they will place a lien on your property for the cost. Second, and more devastating, is its impact on property transactions. In the UK and increasingly in the US, its presence must be disclosed in real estate dealings. Mortgage lenders have been known to refuse loans on infested properties because the plant can literally destroy the assets securing the loan, the house's foundation. This turns a botanical problem into a catastrophic financial and legal one, effectively freezing the sale of the property until an approved guaranteed management plan is in place. Plant number 7. Giant hogweed, Heracleum mantegasianum. Hogweed moves the crime from property damage to criminal endangerment. Its sap contains furanocoumarins, which bind with DNA in skin cells upon UV exposure, causing severe phytophotodermatitis. The legal response is proportionate to the public health risk. In states like New York, Pennsylvania, and Washington, it is a reportable species. If you identify it, you are legally obligated to report it to the State Department of Agriculture or Environmental Conservation. Failure to do so, and allowing it to grow where the public or children could contact it, can lead to charges of reckless endangerment or creating a public nuisance. If a postal worker, utility worker, or neighbor is severely burned, you could face civil lawsuits for medical costs and pain and suffering, with the knowledge of the plant's danger used against you. Plant number 8. Water hyacinth, Eichhornia crassips, and purple loosestrife Lythrum silicaria are classic examples of laws designed to protect public waterways and wetlands, which are held in trust by the state for the public good. Dumping any plant, but especially a prohibited invasive, into a public waterway is a violation of the Federal Clean Water Act and various state environmental conservation laws. The fines are astronomical, because the cost of remediation is astronomical. Agencies like the Army Corps of Engineers spend millions annually clearing navigable channels. If they can trace an infestation to a source, like someone cleaning out their pond, they will seek to recover those costs. Furthermore, selling or trading these plants at a garden swap, even giving them away for free, is illegal trafficking of a prohibited species. This category operates under the legal doctrine of protecting economic security. The statutes are quarantines enforced by the USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, APH, and state departments of agriculture. Violating a quarantine order is a federal crime. The logic is that one person's innocent plant can doom an entire regional industry worth billions and thousands of jobs. Plant number 9. Coffee plants. Coffea arabica and others are heavily regulated, not because of caffeine but because of disease. Coffee leaf rust Hembolea vastatrix and coffee berry borer are global scourges. Hawaii, the only U.S. state with a commercial coffee industry, maintains a rigorous internal quarantine. It is illegal to transport any live coffee plant material, plants, seeds, cuttings between Hawaiian islands without a permit and inspection. Bringing an untested plant from abroad or even from another island onto your backyard in Kona could introduce a new strain of rust that the local varieties have no resistance to. You would be legally and financially responsible for the potential devastation. Plant number 10. Citrus greening. The citrus example is the most urgent and severe in the U.S. agricultural landscape. Citrus greening, or hornblossom HLB, is a death sentence for trees. The bacteria is spread by the Asian citrus psyllid. To combat this, the USDA and states like Florida, California, Arizona, and Texas have established vast citrus pest quarantine zones. Within these zones, it is illegal to move citrus nursery stock or even fruit with stems and leaves attached across county or quarantine lines. Backyard gardeners are the front line of this war. If you purchase a lemon tree from a big box store in one county and plant it at your home in another, you may have just broken quarantine law. More critically, if you mail a box of homegrown oranges with leaves to a relative, you have committed a federal interstate quarantine violation. The push is so strong that in some areas, agricultural officials have the authority to enter your property without a warrant in some emergency protocols, to inspect and even destroy unpermitted or infected citrus trees. Your harmless backyard tree is seen by the law as a potential typhoid Mary for a multi-billion-dollar industry. Plant number 11. Sugarcane, Saccharum officinarum. This follows the same pattern. Diseases like sugarcane smut or orange rust can wipe out yields. In Louisiana and Florida, only certified, disease-free seed cane can be legally planted. Growing cane from an ornamental stalk bought at a flea market or from a piece you brought back from a tropical vacation is a direct violation of agricultural code. The law treats the introduction of a new pathogen not as an accident, but as an act of gross negligence with foreseeable catastrophic consequences. This section exists in a fascinating legal gray zone, where cultivation itself is often not explicitly banned, but the consequences of possession and the potential for misuse create de facto criminal liability. The law here is less about the plant, and more about your knowledge and intent, using other statutes like weapons laws and reckless endangerment. Plant number 12. Castor bean plant, Ricinus communis. The castor bean plant is the prime example of a plant that lands you on a terrorism watch list. Ricin is a Category B bioterrorism agent. While you can buy the seeds from numerous garden catalogs, the moment your relationship with the plant moves from ornamental to extractive, you have committed a federal crime. The FBI's suspicious activity reporting guidelines specifically include the acquisition of chemicals or equipment necessary to create a weapon, or the acquisition of expertise necessary to do so. Ordering 50 pounds of castor beans and researching ricin extraction online is a near-guaranteed path to a dawn raid. Even at a smaller scale, if someone, a child, a pet, a rival, is poisoned by seeds from your plant, you face charges of criminal negligence, manslaughter, or even murder, with the prosecution arguing you maintained an attractive hazard with full knowledge of its deadly potential. Plant number 13. Belladonna, Atropa belladonna, and foxglove, Digitalis purpura. These operate under the legal doctrine of attractive nuisance. This tort law principle holds a landowner liable for injuries to children trespassing on their land if the injury is caused by a hazardous object or condition that is likely to attract children. A colorful berry or a pretty flower spike fits this perfectly. If a child dies from eating belladonna berries from your garden, you cannot claim they were trespassing. The law states you should have foreseen the attraction and either removed the hazard or secured the area. In a criminal trial, the fact that you chose to cultivate a known highly toxic plant for aesthetics would be used to demonstrate a willful disregard for the safety of others, elevating the charge from accident to reckless homicide. Plant number 14. Monkshood Aconitum napellus. Often called the queen of poisons, falls into the same perilous category. Its beautiful blue flowers contain aconitin, a neurotoxin that can kill by paralyzing the heart and lungs. There is no antidote. Cultivating it is legal, but like storing a loaded, unsecured firearm in your front yard, the legal responsibility for any tragedy is immense and unforgiving. In the eyes of a prosecutor, growing these plants without extraordinary safeguards is an act of criminal recklessness. This final section reveals how the law governs even the most mundane aspects of gardening, turning traditional practices into potential infringements. Plant number 15. Patented plants. These represent the commercialization and corporatization of nature itself. When you buy a patented cultivar, like a specific knockout rose, a sun sugar tomato, or a certain blueberry variety, you are not buying the plant. You are buying a license to grow that specific, vegetative instance of the plant. The patent, granted under the Plant Patent Act of 1930 or the Plant Variety Protection Act, gives the breeder exclusive control over its reproduction for 20 years. The tag is a legally binding contract. Propagating it by any method, cuttings, division, tissue culture, is patent infringement. For home gardeners, this is rarely enforced, but it is a technical violation. For small nurseries and farmers, however, it is a serious risk. Companies like Monsanto, now Bayer, have famously sued farmers for saving and replanting patented seeds, like certain soybeans, a practice as old as agriculture itself. These are not criminal cases, but civil lawsuits that can result in crushing financial judgments and the forfeiture of an entire crop. The law has fundamentally changed the relationship between grower and seed, making a natural biological process, propagation, into an act of intellectual property theft. Plant number 16. The mescaline-containing San Pedro cactus, Echinopsis pashanoi. This is the stealth sibling of the peyote cactus, and a massive legal trap waiting for the unsuspecting succulent enthusiast. The San Pedro is tall, columnar, fast-growing, and strikingly beautiful, a centerpiece of many arid and exotic gardens. It's also perfectly legal to buy and sell as an ornamental plant at garden centers and online. But here's the razor-thin legal line. While possession of the cactus itself is generally not illegal, the knowing cultivation with intent to prepare or consume it for its psychoactive properties is a serious federal crime. This cactus contains mescaline, the same Schedule I controlled substance found in peyote. The legal distinction hinges entirely on your intent. Law enforcement and prosecutors look for a pattern. Are you growing a single decorative specimen? Or do you have a greenhouse full of them? Alongside books or internet searches on mescaline extraction, have you posted online about its uses? The moment your activity suggests the intent to use the plant as a drug precursor, you've crossed from hobbyist to drug manufacturer. Possession is legal, but intent is everything. If police find evidence you plan to extract its mescaline, through large quantities, extraction tools, or your own statements, a decorative cactus becomes felony drug manufacturing. Your searches and words can turn a hobby into a prison sentence. And finally, the ultimate legal twist: wheat. The legal precedent here is earth-shattering and dates back to the New Deal. In the landmark 1942 Supreme Court case, Wickard, Filburn, an Ohio farmer named Roscoe Filburn was fined for growing wheat on his own farm, for his own use, above his federal quota. The government argued that by growing his own wheat, he was not buying wheat from the interstate market, and thus his personal activity, when aggregated with that of all other farmers, would affect interstate commerce. The court agreed, establishing that the federal government could regulate any activity, no matter how local and seemingly insignificant, if it could, in the aggregate, have a substantial economic effect on interstate commerce. This case is the legal bedrock for vast swaths of federal regulation. For the modern farmer, this means that planting wheat, corn, peanuts, or other quota-controlled crops outside the precise confines of USDA allotments is not just a regulatory slip, it's a federal offense against the Agricultural Adjustment Act. Your farm is not just your land, it's a cell in the national economic body, subject to central control. The backyard gardener is exempt, but the moment you cross the line into commercial sale, you enter a world where growing too much of the world's most basic staple food is a crime. It is the most profound example of how the law sees a plant not as a living thing, but as a unit of economic production, subject to the absolute authority of the state. So take a long, hard look outside your window. That lush, untamed corner of the yard you've been meaning to clean up. That attractive flowering plant a neighbor gave you with a smile and it spreads like crazy. That curious, fast-growing vine shooting up the fence line. That ornamental bush with the pretty berries. Is it just a plant, or is it a ticking time bomb of liability? Is it a piece of nature you nurtured, or is it, in the cold eyes of the law, potential evidence in a case against you? We've walked through 17 landmines disguised as greenery. From the federally prosecuted psychoactives to the environmentally catastrophic invasives, from the agricultural terror risks to the beautiful poisons that could land you in civil court, and even to the patented rose that you legally cannot propagate. The soil beneath our feet, it turns out, is not a lawless frontier. It is one of the most regulated, scrutinized, and legally fraught spaces we own. The long arm of the law doesn't stop at your property line. It reaches right down to the root system. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How well do you truly know what's growing in your own soil? Could you now spot Japanese knotweed's early shoots? Would you think twice before planting that exotic seed from overseas? Have you ever actually read the fine print on a plant tag? The rules have changed, and ignorance is the flimsiest defense of all. If this deep dive into the shadowy world of forbidden flora surprised you, opened your eyes, or even made you glance nervously at your own backyard, then do us a favor. Smash that like button right now. It lets us know you want more content that cuts through the dirt and gets to the raw truth of gardening. Share this video with every gardener, homeowner, and curious neighbor you know. Send it to your family group chat, post it on your community page. This isn't just trivia, this is crucial information that could save someone from a legal and financial nightmare. Knowledge is power, and sharing it is protection. And most importantly, subscribe to Purely Garden. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. We are your dedicated source for the unfiltered truth about plants, the beautiful, the beneficial, and the banned. We go beyond the pretty pictures to deliver the knowledge you need to cultivate, not just a garden but a sanctuary that is safe, legal, and truly your own. Because in the end, the greatest harvest any of us can reap is peace of mind.